Pull up, grab the fuel nozzle, and get ready to fuel up on trends and strategies to grow your travel center business in this episode of The Truck Stops Here, brought to you by NATSO. Now, here's your host, Amy Toner.
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of The Truck Stops Here. I'm your host, Amy Toner. You are listening to The Truck Stops Here, the NATSO Foundation's podcast. The NATSO Foundation is the research, education, and public outreach subsidiary of NATSO. The podcast is just one of the many educational tools the foundation creates. Today, my guest is Jessica Williams. She's the founder and CEO of Food Forward Thinking. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Amy.
Welcome. So can you start? Just tell us about yourself.
Hi, thank you for inviting me. I have a food consultancy called Food Forward Thinking. I do menu development. My background is I have a food science degree, and I worked for 10 years for Yum Brands, the restaurant company that has Taco Bell, KFC, and Pizza Hut. I worked there on the international division of KFC and learned all about product development and truly fell in love with the whole process of innovation. And then worked for a convenience store chain called Thornton's, based in Kentucky. They now they're owned by BP. So they're a big company now. They have about 200 stores, and that was a great experience. And then in the past 6 years, I've been consulting, doing menus for lots of groups all over the country.
One of the reasons that we wanted to talk to you is because we just did this survey, and one of the things that came out of it was 81% of drivers said they've gone into a travel center but left without purchasing food or beverages because they couldn't find what they wanted. What do you think is missing that they want to buy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one thing that's missing is beverages. A lot of focus is on food, which is great. I think there's a miss when it comes to beverages. And then just generally quality. I think it's the top aspects you usually see with food. Quality, speed, and value.
For the beverages, is there in general something specific you think they're missing out?
So restaurants typically that we're competing with for a share of stomach with food, they do beverages really well. And it might be that they're made to order beverages, or there's a barista making them possibly if it's for coffee or espresso-based drinks. Even with fountain, they don't have to do the work. Someone's doing it for them. So often in travel centers, truck stops, you see, it's self-serve, which makes it really convenient if you feel like doing that work. But sometimes it's nice to be taken care of. And I think that's something that we're missing in the truck stop world.
So interesting. My family travels a lot, and you do always get a beverage, even if you're not hungry. You always get a beverage. So that's interesting. What do you see frequently at travel centers that you wish travel centers would stop doing?
That's an interesting question. So I'm coming at this from the product development point of view, but also as just a regular consumer that travels sometimes. And I notice that truck drivers and families, they don't frequently intersect in the world, but they do at truck stops. The life and needs of a truck driver are a complete mystery to the average non-truck driving customer. And I noticed that I feel out of place when I sort of wander into that mechanical section and knickknacks area of a truck stop. They don't exist in the typical C-store, but they do exist at a truck stop. And then those necessities, they have to be there. And they're usually placed in some separate feeling area. I just think that we could seamlessly integrate that section with the rest of the store. I imagine this world where truck drivers and families live together in harmony as they're walking through the truck stop.
I love it. Okay, so menu planning is a big part of what you do. Yeah. How is menu planning for a truck stop different than for a C-store?
Right. The main difference is considering portion size and value slightly differently. So some drivers may be more price conscious when they have to spend their own money on food. And we have to have items for those drivers. Other drivers might have stipends for food, or they might be spending a little bit more. Yeah. So that balance, and think of taste and value for money, it's always important no matter what type of concept a menu might be for. But here, I look at for truck stops for two categories. Would say filling eats at a low price, and then quality with less regard to cost. Not that you can get ridiculous about it, but I think there are two audiences there.
What are examples of things that you think would be the quality food that you would like suggest that they add to a menu?
Right. Okay. So one example might be with chicken, for example. You can get a really cheap, value grade, low tier chicken patty that's chopped and formed pieces of dark meat, white meat, might even be all white meat, but to where it's like a specific shape. That's not necessarily communicating high quality. A piece of chicken that's whole muscle, that's breaded and fried or grilled, that you could, bite into it or tear it apart and actually see the muscle fibers. That's really good quality. And I think you're starting to see a push for higher quality versus super low cost.
Okay. So we did actually talk about a bit, but we're going to talk about what travel centers should think about when planning their menu.
Yeah. Another thing I think about, if I take into consideration if there's seating in the store or not. But I think we can assume that most drivers are on the go. So most of the time, the food format and the packaging should be designed to eat one-handed and very friendly for travel. If there is seating in the store, though, I think that it's safe to layer on some more indulgent or slightly messier menu items as well. Can't always get away with that. But if there's a seating area, then sure. And then another big difference between truck stops and C-stores is that oftentimes truck stops have a quick service restaurant on site, a QSR, where that site is typically meant to draw in customers from the interstate, or, it's a well-known flagship QSR of some kind. So with the food that we might be serving outside of the QSR, we have to have something that's different, but equally appealing. So we have to look for products that we can offer at similar prices. I think it's helpful to have grab-and-go options as well, not only made-to-order options, but if you have a made-to-order restaurant on site, then you can also have a made-to-order food at your site, and your customers, I think, will be a lot more willing to try that food too. But yeah, we have to be competitive with the other sites that are in our locations. And
I've been seeing more seating at truck stops. Have you been seeing that too?
I have, and nicer seating. So maybe like at the window with some real plants sometimes growing at the tables. I have seen that more often, and even just slightly nicer decor, tile work, lighting. I've seen an emphasis on that lately.
Okay, so what food trend is trending right now?
Oh, what food trends are trending? Generally, I think we just talked about quality, and at every turn, we're expected to pay more for everything.
Totally.
So when we are paying more, I think we fully expect that we shouldn't be getting the same thing that we got before. A lot of good retailers are taking the opportunity to upgrade quality. If you can find a sauce that doesn't have high fructose corn syrup, but it's actually made with ingredients that you might be able to pronounce. If you can go with butter rather than liquid butter flavored alternative, So I think these are some of the quality upgrades that consumers expect when we're paying more.
I've heard you recommend that truck stops and travel centers should offer menu items that provide an unexpected twist on the familiar by providing new flavors. What are some examples for our industry?
Okay, sure. Have you heard about the Chick-fil-A sandwich, this honey pepper pimento chicken sandwich?
No. Tell me more.
Okay. So, they have the classic chicken sandwich. Everyone knows that. Well, they paired it up with pimento cheese, which for a lot of people is also a really familiar item. But have you ever eaten them together?
I haven't.
I know. Well, I think that's one example of bringing two very familiar items together in a unique twist. But not only that, but they added honey and a hot pepper as well. So you have spicy, sweet, you have creamy and cheesy, and then this classic chicken taste that has the pickles. I mean, what does it not have? But this is a familiar twist. And at the very least, it got you thinking about a chicken sandwich, didn't it? And then if you just go in and order a plain chicken sandwich, that's actually what they want you to do anyway. It's a lot easier to execute. So they win either way, but I love that play on familiar and the twist on it. Another example I could share with you is one of the NATSO members is Boss One Fuels Pump and Pantry. I worked with them late last year and early this year. They've been rolling out a menu that includes an upgrade to their classic burritos. They've been doing great with burritos forever. But lately, they've rolled out a toasted version of it. And if you like it without it being toasted, you're going to love it toasted. So it's a pretty safe, slight twist. It makes it a little bit more differentiated. And then meats and proteins inside, like chicken tinga, beef barbacoa, things that just scream lots of flavor. I think it's a pretty safe bet, but I would say that's a good example of a twist on the familiar. It's a familiar format, familiar taste profile, but something a little bit adventurous, but it sounds like it has lots of flavor. So I think they've done a good job with pairing up familiar and adventure.
I would imagine when people are on the road, they're kind of like in the adventure spirit. So would go with it.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, and another thing that I've noticed lately is this nostalgia with sweets and candies. So when I was little, nostalgia meant things that were from the 50s and the 60s. But now nostalgia means the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think whenever you can incorporate flavors and brands and candies, especially from, say, the 90s, I'm thinking about Little Debbie, oatmeal cream pies, Twinkies, Ho-Hos. We're seeing that with Flaming Hot Cheetos, anything from the snacks out of the store, but but new flavors with old products. Something like maybe you could do something with Pop Rocks even. How crazy would that be in food? I'm not sure what that could be.
It's good for the car. It's fun.
Yeah. I mean, even just the fact that they exist, they probably are already in the store. But what could you do with food? One time when I worked for Thornton's, we did a crazy donut. It was a Jolly Rancher donut. So it was delicious. We've done peeps on donuts. We've done things that take this nostalgia like, oh, I remember having that as a kid and bringing it over into today. I think it's kind of a fun treat.
Now I want a donut. Okay. I loved your advice to dig into sales to identify which categories of products are their top movers. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, thanks. I would say that customers vote on their favorite items with their dollars. So if you can sort out the various categories of food into smaller categories and really tease out what's working and what's not. For example, in hot foods, you might not want to just say hot foods, but you might want to dig into roller grill and hot grab and go breakfast, hot grab and go lunch, bowls, wraps, made to order food. The more granular you can get in your categories, the better. And then ask yourself, what items are you selling the most of right now as far as units? Of those items, which ones have the highest margin? If you don't like the margin that you see, can you get a better price from your vendor on it? Or do you need to up the retail price a little bit? Is there room there? But in the end, the reason I like to dive into the data is that if customers are telling you what they like, you also in turn get to tell the customer what you want them to buy. So if you think that the numbered combo meals on menu boards that say like McDonald's are just random, that is wrong. They are strategically placed on there so that you buy what they want you to buy. You are buying products that have strong margin, that are easiest to execute. You're getting what they want you to get. By the time you're looking through all the combos, and if you're thinking about something else and you didn't see it, or it wasn't one of the first 8 or 20 combo meals, it's almost like you give up and you're like, you know what, actually I will go for that number 7 in the end. But that's not by accident. They want you to buy that. And I think we can do a better job with that. At truck stops and convenience, I think we can do a better job with signs, with loyalty apps, with beautiful food photography, with signs on the windows at pump toppers. I think tell people what you think, what you want them to buy, and encourage them to buy it. That's something that we could do better.
Okay. Anything else? Do we miss anything?
Just generally, I think about menu development in that purchase cycle for the customer. So awareness, trial, repeat, and habit. And I think you have different promotions based on which part of that cycle that you're in. So you need to be a little bit happier with higher waste, maybe early on if you're have a brand new product or a brand new menu altogether, be comfortable with more waste, but then work on driving awareness and trial and making that product or that experience a habit. Another thing that I just wanted to mention was about planning ahead. So menu innovation and the product life cycle, I mean, it can seem very daunting, but I would just say an easy to execute category would be a great place to start, like maybe it's bakery. Maybe you work with your bakery vendor on getting some LTO products every now and then. So those limited time offer products just quarterly. Just start a quick Excel calendar and start planning ahead and thinking, okay, how far back do I need to be now? What's the next marketing window that I can hit? And just start off small with things that are very low risk and build your way up into something more complex. Just balance those operational wins with some news. You just don't ever want to you don't want your customers to think that you have a stale menu, that you just set it up once and then never looked at it again. It helps them know that you care about the program.
Okay, I'm going to ask you some fun questions that are a surprise. Before I do that, they're very easy. How can people get a hold of you?
You can find me at my website. It's foodforwardthinking.com. I'm on LinkedIn. That's how a lot of people find me. My email is jess@foodforwardthinking. I'm pretty easy to find if you search the word food and my name. Just Jessica.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Before I let you go, here's our fast fail fun questions. This one's good for you. The first one is, what is your go-to on the road snack?
It's always a Snickers.
Oh, okay. Do you like to ride or drive?
I like to drive.
Okay. How do you take your truck stop coffee?
Black. I think I love it like that.
Okay. If you're stuck at a truck stop in a snowstorm, how would you pass the time?
With my job, I would probably be talking to the truck drivers and find out what they like or they don't like. I'm kind of a social person. If I was with my family, my daughter would probably be the one going and talking to people and learning about them. I think it would be a great opportunity just to talk to people. We're all stuck together.
Okay, then we're going to end with a controversial question. It's faux controversial. Is it a truck stop, a travel center, or a travel plaza? What's the right term?
Ooh. Travel plaza sounds the fanciest. I think we should start aiming toward that. I like that one.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I appreciate just being invited. Thanks, Amy.
So much good stuff. All right. Thank you for listening to today's episode of The Truck Stops Here. You can find us online at natso.com/podcast. If you have any questions, you want to be a guest, if you want to be a sponsor, reach out to me at editor@natso.com. Bye.
The Truck Stops Here was brought to you by NATSO, the association representing truck stops and travel centers. Visit natso.com for more information. The Truck Stops Here is produced by NATSO in collaboration with Human Factor. Producers are Amy Toner and Darren Schulte.